Hi everyone, my name is Varmar, and in this video I'm going to try to do a very short and straightforward tutorial about how to communicate within Unreal Engine blueprints, controllers, actors, and different parts of your application. Now, if you watch the YouTube tutorials about this whole segment, you most likely came across with blueprint interface communications, using interfaces for communication, or for example using the game state to send messages back and forth between your player controller, for example, or pawn, or certain actors. Or you could also stumble upon a part where they recommend you to create your dedicated actor. In order to do that, we're going to go through each of these methods, and at the end of the video you're most likely going to have a clearer understanding of how the whole communications in between different parts of the application works, right? So let's get into it. So basically we just created an Unreal Engine 5.6 demo project with using the third-person shooter template. Now, if you do that, this is the folders that you're going to receive. If we're going to the third person, we're going to the blueprints, you are going to see the BP third-person character, which is basically your pawn, of course, your player controller, which is your controller. Let's zoom out and go here to the plugin play, and you also see a game mode, which is your BP third person game mode, which specifies all the game state and everything else. Now, for the game state, we could create our own version, right? So if we go to the blueprint class and you go to game state, you're going to see the game state base and the normal game state. Game state base is basically just a template which does not have too much basic stuff added to it. It's a really minimal version. The normal game state is more like for matchmaking, multiplayer games, scoreboards, etc. So it's a little bit more advanced than the normal game state base. In this case, the base is what usually you get by default, but you can do also a game state. Let's just do a game state, and then we're going to create it and call it my game state, right? So, and then you can go to your project settings, and you could do it from here also. In the project settings, you type in game mode, and inside the game mode you have the game state class, which then you can select the my game state just like this. And that would mean that from here on out, this is going to be your game state. Let's just open it. Right, and we are going to put it right here. It's a custom game state. Now, how communication goes in between different players, actors, etc. Let's also create a simple actor right here, and I'm going to call this right here a simple actor. Let's call this manager actor, and then I'm going to also just simply drop this manager into my open world environment. Doesn't matter where. It's just a simple actor that I do wanna be in the open world, and if it's a multiplayer, for example, I could replicate this one. I could set it to be always relevant, and that would mean everyone have access to everything that's inside this particular actor. All right, so communication in between. Usually, where do you want to execute your communications from? Usually it's either somewhere in the BP third person, because you're doing something with your character, your pawn, or it happens from your controller. Same situation, you control the pawn, so actually you can do that also from the controller, right? How do we reference different actors? So I'm going to start with the very simple one, which is going to be creating a variable inside an actor and then accessing it in the controller or the BP third person pawn, right? So in the manager actor, I'm going to create a new variable, which I'm going to call this demo variable. Doesn't matter, demo variable. It's going to be just a simple boolean true or false, and or we could set this one to an integer just for the sake of the tutorial. And then the default value, we are going to set it to 12, right? Just like this. So once you compile it, this variable you want to read out in different parts. You want to have access to this variable in a different part of your application, which is either in the controller or either in the pawn. Let's do it in the controller. Now in the controller, what you could do, and let's hijack the event plugin play for now. I'm going to add a sequencer here, and I'm going to take this part one, and I'm going to do a get all actors of a class. and then I'm going to select my manager actor. So manager actor, right? And this is going to respond you with an array of actors, but because there's only one actor in the world, because I just dropped it here, there's going to be one single actor, I can safely assume that I can access, get a copy, I can access the index 0. If it has a multiple one, what I can do is I can do a for each loop, and I can determine whichever one I want. Because let's say I have a manager 1, manager 2, manager 3. So I can loop through and I can compare them and say I want to access something from manager 3, right? That's one of the examples. In this case, just one manager, so I'm getting index 0. Because I know it's index 0, that's the first one always. This is gonna respond to you with a manager actor object reference, right? So what it means that from this moment out, I could access this demo variable right here. So demo variable, get demo variable. Now this one literally going to respond to me with, and I can do a print string, right? Let's do it to 10 seconds. 10 seconds, have like a blue color, right? And I'm going to connect it like this, and I'm going to be executed like this. Now, if we start up our single player game, we are going to see the number 12 written in the top left corner as such. Why? Because the actor have a default value of 12, and in the controller on a begin play, we are literally reading this out loud. Now, this can also happen from, for example, the pawn. So in the BP third person character, we could even trigger this with a keybind. So let's say we're pressing the E key, right? Let's just do an F key. Yes, let's do an F key, and upon press get all actors of a class, and we do our BP, not BP, but actual manager actor, right? In the manager actor, we're getting a copy, which is going to be number 0, and we're reading out the demo variable, which then we're printing out as a string, and we're printing it out for 5 seconds. And if we connect everything, what's going to happen is that if we start the game and press the F key, we are going to read out on the top left corner, we are going to read out the number 12. If I would change this number to 20, of course, dynamically, and I press the F key, it's reading out number 20. So that's a very, very simple way of actually reading out data from your actors in your controllers or characters. Now, but this one, keep in mind, the more actors you have and you need to loop through them, it gets more resource expensive. Also, every single time doing a get all actors of a class is a little bit resource heavy, right? So how could we even optimize this? How could we even optimize the actual whole process? What we could do here is that whenever the begin play happens, and let's say the controller, or even in the, and I'm going to stop this right here, the F key, and I'm going to just take this one and move it somewhere. What is a begin play here, right? Let me just add a event graph. Not a new event graph, begin play. Right here. Okay, so let's do an event begin play, which basically means that when I take control of the BP third person character, or when I take control of the BP third person controller. So what we can do here is that actually I'm going to, once I have a reference point, right? I'm not going to worry about this. Let's just move it to the side. Once I have a valid reference point, I'm going to promote this to a variable. This new variable, I'm going to call this demo variable, right? Not demo variable, sorry. I'm going to call this one manager actor, like this, because this is a manager actor. So what happens now? What happens is that now we promoted this, and I can disconnect this. I promoted this to be a variable. What this means? It means I can always reference this, right? So when the player controller actually initiated a begin play, I declared as a variable, and now I have direct access to it. And that means I declare it, and later on, within a, let's do also an E key again, and press an F key. So again, when I press the F key, I don't need to loop through this because all I have to do is get it like this, and then I can do demo variable, right? That's all I have to do, literally that easy. And I can do the print string, and once I press it, I can read it out like this, right? So we broke it down, and the first part we declare as a fixed variable. So this is always going to reference to this actor. And from here on out, anytime I press the F key, all I have to do is drop this one as a get, and any variable, demo, any variable set or get I can do from here. I can even set it. So for example, I can set it that instead of 12 has to be a different one set, and now it's changed from 20 to 30 or whatever, you know. You have full access to the variables. Let's try it in runtime. So once we load in, it's gonna declare it, and once I press an F key, it's going to read it, okay? So we load it in, now I press the F key, see, 20. Because one, and I can do that from the BP third person also. You have a begin play here, you have an F key here, right? In the begin play, you declare this like this, and then you just do it promote to a variable. You call the variable your actor manager, whatever, and then you set it. And when you want to use it, you just drop it here, and you can access any demo variable, read it out, do whatever you want with it. So that's one of the ways, a very simple and straightforward ways. All right, the next one we are going to test the game state communication. So how do I communicate with the begin play or the F key from the player Pawn, which is a third person or first person character, or the controller for that matter, using the game state to actually communicate? Or how could I also, for example, use the event graph of my actor to actually communicate with the game state? So that's going to be the next one, using the game state. For that, we created the game state. I changed it actually to my game state base because we're going to use the base version of it. I'm going to open it, and I'm then going to create a variable which we're going to call demo state variable, right? And it's just going to be a boolean. I'm not going to complicate it. The default true. So we have to access this so-called variable, let's say from the player controller. Now, you don't have a valid reference point. You need to get a reference point. How do you get a reference? So that's what you hear in the tutorials all the time, that you need to have a valid reference. And a lot of you, I know, you don't understand what is a valid reference point. And this is exactly what we did in the first actor type of things, because in the actor type of things what we did is get all actors of a class which responded you all the actors, and we did get a copy, and that already responded you with a valid and usable reference points, which we stored it as a variable manager actor, and then from here on out we could just do it like this and access the variables, right? So that's what we call when we say you have to have a valid reference point. You cannot just go here, variables, click a new one, called it game state, right? And then you say this is a my game state reference, my game state base object reference, which in most cases would be like, yes, this is exactly what we want to do, and that's exactly what we want to do. But if you don't set it from something, right, you don't have a valid game state reference point that you set your variable, this is empty. So the moment you add the new variable here, and you just create, let's say, a game state variable, or you do a ESMC, which is an instance static mesh component. Let's say instance static mesh component, what is it? Object reference. Whatever you do here, that's not valid up until the moment that you don't set something to it, right? You need to add something to be something. You cannot create reference point out of thin air. And this is exactly what we did, is we did a get all actors of a class, we loop through, we get a valid point, and then we declare them. From that one out, your manager actor variable is not empty anymore, it's a really valid one. And that's what we're gonna do with the game state. But how we're going to do it is very simple. All right, so what we're going to do is we have this my game state base, which is my custom game state. And I do need to access variables from it, but unless I connect something to it, I cannot get out the variable, right? Because if I would just do it like this, and I would try to do the demo variable, it would not be possible, because let's say that in the game state base, this is actually going to be, instead of a boolean, let's call on again an integer with a default value of 12, and then we compile it down, and then we try a print string. And if we connect it here and we try to do it like this, it says 0. Why it says 0? Because we don't have a valid reference point, okay? And we have errors right here, which we can show in the error log. If I find the error log, that's in another monitor. So basically the error right here, it says that you can't access it because you don't have a valid reference point to it, obviously. So I'm going to keep this one like this, put it on the side. So we need a valid reference point. How do you do that? You do a right click and you do get game state, right? You get the game state like this. This is literally a function called get game state. Now you cast it to my game state base, cast to my game state base. This is my custom game state. You need to cast it out, and this is your valid reference point. From here on out, you can get the demo variable. You can literally just get this demo variable, right? So we could do like this, and then connect it here, connect it here, and whenever we press the F key now, it's going to tell us that it's 12. Why? Because we did not have a valid reference point. And same situation that we had before, we can save this because now we had the game state as a saved variable. So in begin play, I recommend to actually do the whole casting in begin play like this. And once you have it, and let's move this one down a little bit. Once you have this, declare it as a variable, right? Connect it like this. And from here on out, you have a valid reference point. So next time when you press the F key, all you have to do is grab the game state and then connect and grab the variable, because now here demo state variable, you have full access to any of the variables from the game state. And you can also change variables in the game state. Let's go back. We load in, and because we did load in, this line of things already executed. We already have a valid reference point. We already stored it as a variable. So now if I press the F key, it's directly using this to read from it, which is going to be, again, 12. So it's really only about finding a valid reference point, either by using the get game state, casting it out to the right one, getting the right variable, saving it down, and then use it later like this, or do the get all actors of a class and then looping through it, get your manager actor or whatever actor you're looking for. Depends what you want to do. You can do game state with casting. You can do actor with get all actors of a class. At the end, always you need to save down as the variable, and then you can cast it and access any variable from it, right? It's that simple, basically. But this could be also accessed by an actor for that matter. So when I say that you have this one, I could literally copy this, and let's disconnect it. Let's disconnect this. I'm going to copy this or cut it, put it in my manager actor, and in my manager actor in the event begin play, I'm going to connect the begin play to this, and then as simple, I'm going to also grab this one, put it here, connect it, and then literally connect it like this and read out the variable. And actually, I'm not going to set it. I'm just directly going to do it like this because it's not need to set it here. Okay, so what happens now? I have a public actor, which is placed in my world right here, manager actor, a replicatable actor. And that actor on the begin play gonna do the same exact thing that the player, controller, or character did, right? What's going to happen? We play. We're gonna see 12 in the bottom left corner, on the top left corner, right? We go 12. If I switch this in the game state base, this integer to 20, like this, and I start, it's 20. Okay, so you can communicate with the game state from an actor. You can communicate with the game state from a controller, from a character, from anywhere basically the game. You don't even need interfaces to read variables and do communication. Also, not just about variable reading, but when it comes to advanced stuff, let's say I have my actor right here, okay? Let's say in my actor I have a custom event. This custom event is called my demo event. It's a custom event. We all know what it is. It's just basically have variables. Let's say that it has a custom integer, which is going to be an integer, and then I also have yes or no, which is going to be a simple boolean, like I'm expecting some stuff, and I'm gonna do a print string node, and I'm going to connect to the print string, let's say with a branch. If this is true, like this, if this is true, I'm going to print it, and what I'm going to print, I'm going to print the number that it's been sent. Something simple, doesn't matter. You have some kind of logic that you would like to be executed, right? And how do you trigger this from a controller, from a PP third person, from GameState, or from another actor for that matter? We're going to show you now. So let's say that I press the F key from my player controller, and I want to trigger this particular event to happen, the my demo event. If I go to my controller, and let's put this one here, if I do the pressed, and let's just recompile and save, if I do the pressed and do my demo, nothing happens. If I take the context sensitive, sure, it has this one, but it says target. What is the target? You need to have a valid reference point. What is your reference point? The same situation that we did earlier. And I'm going to actually put the context sensitive back, because this tells you exactly that you have a valid context or not. So if I type demo, it doesn't have it because it's called my demo event, right? My demo event is not here. But if I do a get all actors of a class again, and I do manager actor like this, and it gets me an array which I get to copy because I know there's only one single placed in the world, and now I have a valid reference point. Now I can do the my demo event because now I have a target for it. Now I can set the custom int, which is 12. I can pick it to be true, and if this is the case, then once I press F, it loops through the actors, finds the one placed in the world, uses as a target, triggers the demo event, which says going to print out the number that I sent. So if I'm here and I press F key, I'm seeing 12 printed out. Why? Because I did in the player controller, what is it? The player controller, yes. So what I did here is I saw 12. If I do it like 20 here and I go back, now it's at 20. Okay, so now you see how you can communicate between a simple controller and your actor, even triggering custom events without any blueprint interfaces, because blueprint interfaces are usually the breaker of people. They don't understand how they work. But this is a very simple way of doing things. But of course, you can use blueprint interface. Also, that's going to be the last part that we go through. So now, at this point of the video, you know how to communicate between a player controller, a pawn, a game state, an actor, or anything basically. And I could have components even communicating between components, right? So the only thing is you always need to have a valid reference point. You cannot just say, oh, this is my manager actor, and then I do like this and I connect it. No, because it's not gonna work. You have a valid reference. This only works, you declaring it here, if you do it like this, and then you set it, right? You do like this, set, okay, now you set like this, and then sure, later on, once you initially set, let's do F, and here you do the G key, right? I set with the F key, and with the G key, I just simply grab my actor like this, and then connect it to the target. So when I press my G key, I'm gonna have a legit target, okay? And we're gonna practice this. I'm gonna press F, and then I'm gonna press G. It's gonna work, but if I just press G, it's not. And look, I'm just going to press G now, nothing else, G key, nothing happens. I don't have a valid reference point, okay? And you see I have errors because I tried this one, but this wasn't set. But if I first do the F key, okay, F key, and then the G key, now I can press the G key because now I had a valid reference point, okay? Because I already went through with this one, I did set it. So from here on out, I can use it and have a valid reference point. That's all it takes, basically. For blueprint interfaces, it will be even more simple than you would expect. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Okay, let's do it. So for Blueprint interfaces, we are going to communicate between the BP third person controller, and we are going to the player controller, and between an actor, this public actor right here. So you need to understand one thing, and it's very simple. The blueprint has to be added into the part where you need to receive communication, not the part where you actually have to trigger communication. Where you have to trigger communication, you need a valid reference point. Where you want to receive communication, you need to add the blueprint interface. That's what you have to remember. In this case, where do you want to communicate? From the controller to the actor. In that case, you add the interface to your actor. If you want to communicate from the actor to the controller, you add it in the controller. If you want to communicate between both, right? So you want to communicate back and forth, then you have to add it to both, and you always have to get a reference point in both. And let me explain you why. Okay, so back to our content drawer, and right here in the content, I'm going to do a blueprint, and I'm going to create a blueprint interface, okay? And I'm going to call this one my demo interface. Now this my demo interface I'm going to open, and here you can place functions. Think about this. These functions are going to be visible on your receiving end. So if I have a function here, which I just simply name my demo inter function, right? My demo inter function, and each and every, I click here, you see the details panel going off because this details panel is for the function, okay? So if I click the function, now the details panel opens. This function can expect inputs and outputs, okay? Inputs, that means that if I add this interface into my actor, which is going to be at the receiving end, then the actor will receive this function right here in the functions, is going to receive this function here, and you can pass any inputs. For example, let's pass demo integer, which is going to be a simple integer, and then the outputs, we can respond with stuff actually. Let's do an output, and the output going to be received, yes or no boolean. Did we receive the actual data or no? Yes or no? Okay, this, follow me, this is going to be really easy, okay? So we are going to add the interface to the receiving end, which is the actor. How you do it? You're going to your class settings right here, and in the class settings, you have the implemented interfaces, not inherited, but implemented interfaces, no interface. You click here, and you add it, okay? My demo interface, like this, because this is the receiving end. And the moment you did that, you received your custom function from the interface, my demo inter function. I could create a not going to use it, okay? And I could compile it down. The moment I do it and I refresh, not going to use it appears here, okay? Why? Because I implemented interface. Anything I add extra functions here, whoever adds it as a receiving end will receive it. And this is the important part. Now in the my demo inter function, if I double click, it will open the function, okay? Right here. You're going to receive an input as an integer, and you're going to have an output, which is a boolean true or false. Why? Because you did change the output right here to booleans, true or false. It could be a string, like let's say this one, a string, okay? And the output message, like this. Let's compile it down, go back to actor, compile. Now it says output message, okay? And it's simple. I could do, I received your message. Let's just do like this. I respond with that I received your message. And this one, for example, could be an integer, right? So what we're going to do here is that in the BP third person controller, right here, the player controller, if I press the F key, I want to communicate with this actor using the blueprint interface, the my demo inter function. If I type here, right here, my demo inter function, you see there is a few things right here. You have the my demo inter function message, where you need to communicate from here to the actor, you always have to look for the message part, where you see the brackets and there is a message inside. This is the one that you're looking for. If you see multiple stuff here, always look for the bracketed message tag. So you click here and you're like, okay, it's the same thing. I have the demo point right here where I can input integer and I get an output message. Oh, this is great. Let's actually do a print string like this and the output message connect. And let's say if I receive the output message and I press like this and then my demo int, let's say do it 12. Now, I know that this is not going to happen. Why? Because this is an error that it says that you have to have a target. And we circle it back to the beginning of the video, and this is exactly why now you're going to understand how Blueprint functions work, is because you have to have a valid target for it. The target like this. So for example, let's do it like this. G key, I'm going to do it like this, okay? And then the target has to be the manager actor, right here, manager actor, okay? We're gonna connect it like this, but it's still not going to be okay, because if I press the G key like this, I'm not going to receive any message. But when I go out, I'm going to have errors coming up, because what's going to happen is that manager actor not declared. I have to declare it first, just like we did before. So if I press F key, I'm going to get all actors of a class. I'm going to do the manager actor, right? Manager actor, get a copy of it, which is the index 0, and then I'm going to set the manager actor to be this particular stuff right here. And if I set it first with the F key, this is a set and this is a use, right? Then I can, of course, use it. I'm setting it and I'm using it, right? And if I'm using it, then I'm going to receive the message back. Simple as that. Look, I set it with the F key, and then I press the G key and I say, I received your message. See, I received your message, top left corner, right there. I received your message, because the manager actor receives my integer that I'm passing, and it says, I received your message. What I could do here is I do an append. I say, you sent me this integer, okay? And I connect whatever you send like this. So just to show you that it's really working, okay? So I set it with the F key, and then you sent me this 12. But then if I change this one, for example, 20, and I set with F key, and then the G key, you sent me this int 20. So this, all it takes is you have to have a valid reference point. I could directly just connect it like this. Look, actually when I press the G key, I'm directly first going to do this. I don't need to set it. It's gonna go like this, and then let's just have some space for it, like this. Okay, cool. And then like this, and then have some space, of course, and connect it like this. What happens? I combine the two things. First, I loop through all the actors, get a reference point, use the reference point. Now it's going to work directly with the G key. I go into the game and all I press is G and it's right away working, because you have a valid reference point. But this could be going back and forth communication. And why do you need a reference point even in a Blueprint interface call? Pretty simple, because Blueprint interfaces can be added by anyone. So this interface is possible that it's added here in the actor, right? It has this in the actor, but what if I also add the interface, the demo interface to the game base? For example, right here, demo interface. What if I add it here also? Now you see the same my demo function right here. Okay, right, same thing. I'm going to do it like this and like this. Okay, and connect it here, and I'm actually going to do it coming from GameState. Okay, coming from GameState, and in the actor also I'm gonna do coming from actor, right? So now two things are implemented the same. Blueprint interface, the actor has it on itself, and also the GameState also has it on itself. So in the player controller, if I press, let's say, the F key, I'm gonna do a GameState version, right? Get GameState, how we did it before, get GameState. Oop, GameState. Why I'm not seeing the GameState? GameState, oh, it's here, okay. Get GameState, it was just bugged. So get game state, I'm gonna cast to my game state base, and I'm going to use it as a reference point to set this one, right? Now I have a valid variable, and now I can use this one to actually use it as a reference point. So when I say my demo inter function message, now the target can be this. And if the target now is this, what it means, let's just do the same print string, okay? Like this. So what it means, if I press the F key, I'm gonna receive a message from the game state. If I press the G key, I'm gonna receive a message from the actor in papers. So let's press the F key, coming from game state, you see, you send me this int coming from game state. And if I press G key, you send me this int coming from actor. Okay, so that's the main difference. Of course, I just send 0 here, but it could be 12, I don't know. And then you see, you send me 12 coming from the game state, you send me 20 coming from the actor. So both different parts of the game have the same interface put on top of them. And then here, that's why you need a valid reference point, because these are the same message interfaces, but you have different targets to them, right? You have different targets to them. So this is so simple. And that's why messaging, communicating between Unreal Engine actors, game state, controllers, pawns, etc., interfaces, the core principle behind it is that you have to get a valid reference point. You can create your variables here, but without assigning them, you can't do that. For game state, it goes by get game state, cast it, and then you have the valid variable right here. For an actor, get all actors of a class, you get it, and then this is how you do it. For example, the BP third person character, get player pawn, or get controlled pawn, I guess. Player index. If you have a player index, you have a pawn. You can cast to BP third person character. Now you have a valid reference point. Pretty simple, right? I mean, it's just, that's what it takes basically. If, or let's say I have a line trace by channel, and then I hit something and I break the hit result, and in here I do have a hit component, right? A simple component like instance static mesh component. I need to cast to instance static mesh component, and now I do have a valid object reference. So everything has a way of grabbing a reference point, either by casting, either by grabbing a class of actors, looping through something. It's always gonna have, I cannot tell you every single thing because there's hundreds of different things in Unreal Engine and how you get a valid reference point to them. Well, it's 99% of the time it's casting. If you type here cast to, well, you have an idea. You can cast to many different things. So 99% of the times you are going to have to cast it to something, okay? And that's usually, what do you cast? What do you cast is these little functions here usually, okay? So you like get player pawn, get player state, get player controller, get camera manager, get, like, you have a lot of get stuff that at the end you can cast to something to get a valid reference point. I think we covered everything. Maybe it was an even too long video, but if you found it informative, subscribe to my channel and I will bring you informative Unreal Engine videos and tutorials so you can get a better understanding of this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.